What do you think was happening to children with disabilities on a slave plantation? Likely nobody was being diagnosed with autism in the 17 and 1800s, but we do know that there were people who exhibited symptoms of what we would call autism today. My name is Devonne Adanna, and I tell stories of Caribbean courage, diaspora defiance, and island impact. Month is Autism Awareness Month, and many of the stories that you'd hear from me in April center around autism history, a cause that is near and dear to the heart of this platform. Autism is often described as a spectrum because people who have it can exemplify any number of a range of different behaviors or challenges. These could be social challenges, communication challenges, or even having very narrow and particular interests. So how did these challenges play out for the blind and autistic person, enslaved person that was Thomas Greene Wiggins? Tom is born on May 25th, 1849 on the Wiley E. Jones plantation in Harris County, Georgia. His parents are the 48-year-old Charity Wiggins and Domingo or Mingo Wiggins. Tom is blind from birth, so his mother and father knew that that would not augur well for enslaved life on a plantation in the Deep South. But why would they think that their son would not be likely to survive because of his disabilities? Well, it could be because when Massa Wiley E. Jones discovers that Tom is blind, he decides that he is worthless and thus orchestrates for Tom's death by refusing to clothe or feed baby Tom. Tom's mom, Charity, hears through the grapevine that Massa Jones wants to sell off some of his slaves to settle a few of his debts. So she and Mingo make a plan. They boldly approach a neighboring slave owner for help. Now, this plantation owner was considered by many of the slaves to be a fair man. And even though he was very pro-slavery, somehow Charity and Mingo knew that their family was likelier to stay together and their son likelier to stay alive by being bought by this slave owner. And here Massa Jones, when he's selling the Wigginses to Massa Bethune, I got throw in the blind baby for free. Like if he giving Bethune a deal or something. Poor Jones here, no, the stone the builder refused was to be the head cornerstone. So Colonel James Neal Bethune is not only a plantation owner, he is a highly respected Columbus, Georgia attorney and newspaper editor. And though all of his 7 children are into music, 4 of his daughters are properly into the music. His eldest daughter, Mary, trained in piano under George W. Chase, who is a famed New York trained composer and conductor. So remember music and remember Mary, because that's going to play an integral role in this story. So baby Tom gets to the Bethune plantation at around 1 year old in 1950 after the entire family is bought by Colonel Bethune at an auction. So like baby Tom has an ear for sound. He would break plates to hear them crash. He would pinch his siblings to hear them squeal. He absolutely was enthralled by sound and would follow his ear wherever he heard a sound. And one day his ear led him right under the window of the Bethune Great House, where the Bethune girls were practicing songs. When practice stopped, they heard a young voice in perfect pitch continuing to sing the songs that they had just sung. Now, did I mention that baby Tom have perfect memory? Tom at this age is largely non-verbal. He mostly communicates with a series of gestures and grunts. And this, along with his lifelong focused interest on music, is what leads most historians to diagnose him as autistic. In 1866, this physician, Dr. Edward Seguin, who would be the person who introduces us to the psychological method, got an opportunity to study Tom and published his findings. He states that Tom could only originate about 100 words, but he could repeat long prose of conversation years after he had heard them. He could sing in impeccable French and German after only hearing a song once. So the fact that young Tom could repeat every sound he heard under the Bethune window that day even though he was not much for communication, was a real accomplishment. It was that early interaction that led Massa Bethune to realize that Tom had musical prowess. From there, the Bethune girls would overtake Tom's education, helping him associate words with objects. And remember Mary, the eldest Bethune daughter? Well, she started teaching Tom formal music and how to play the piano. Well, that was it. A star is born. Tom all move into the great house, have his own room with piano and thing. And he'd love a piano, you know. Let me say it had 24 hours in the day. Well, Tom playing for 12 of them hours. Tom gets so good at the piano that before he's even a teenager, he becomes the first person of African descent to play a command performance at the White House under President James Buchanan. He was the 13th president of the United States. He also plays for the very first Japanese delegation to the United States. On top of that, he rakes in over $3.5 million 2024 in concert sales. He was arguably one of the most profitable and well-known musicians of his day. And we don't even call this man name today. He composed over 100 original pieces. He also had a gift for mimicry and could imitate sounds like the sounds of the wind, bird calls, rain. And hear this talent. He could play one song with his left hand, another, a whole next song with his right hand, plus sing a third different song with his mouth. But Tom's story is not all a happy one. While he was taken care of from the perspective of having shelter, clothes, and food, he is completely taken advantage of by the Bethune family, which highlights one of the major disadvantages that some people with autism face, and that is an inability to advocate for themselves. A year before slavery is abolished in America in 1865, Tom is about 15 years old. Massa Bethune, being the fair and learned man that he is, gets Tom's parents to sign over guardianship of Tom and thus earnings of Tom to him. This is to occur over a 5-year period and happens under the guise of indentureship. The arrangement would prove to be a mistake that Charity Wiggins would wage a lifelong battle to overturn. In exchange for Tom, the Wiggins are entitled to a house and are paid the lucrative sum of $500 a year. Now, that is $20,000 in today's money, but pales in comparison to the amount of money that Massa Bethune was getting. Bethune all changed Tom's last name from Wiggins to Bethune and passes the right to his earnings onto his son, as though in post-slavery America, the boy was still a chattel slave. And when Bethune's son dies in an unexpected accident, the right to Tom's earnings somehow passes to his estranged wife Eliza after she has to fight 3 other Bethune family members to the rights to Tom. But this right is subject to approval by Charity Wiggins, who Eliza sneakily convinces to give her this consent. And from that, Eliza lock away Tom in a room in a house that he earned himself built in Hoboken, New Jersey. And Eliza forbids Tom and Charity from ever seeing each other again. Tom would die from a stroke at the age of 59 on June 14, 1908. Tom's mom, Charity, though, would live to 101. Before she passed in 1902, let me leave you with the quote that she gave to a newspaper reporter in that year. "They stole him from me. When I was in New York, I signed away my rights. They won't let Thomas come to see me, and I am not allowed to see him. Click plus for more."